We're here outside Kenya's parliament.
People back home call me a heckler, a troublemaker, an irritant, a rebel, an activist, the voice of the people. But that wasn't always me. Growing up, I had a nickname. They used to call me Softy, meaning the soft, harmless boy. Like every other human being, I avoided trouble. In my childhood, they taught me silence. Don't argue, do as you're told. Being a coward was not an insult. Being a coward was a compliment. We used to be told that a coward goes home to his mother. Well, that meant that if you stay out of trouble, you're going to stay alive.
Kuna mtu mzalendo, anapenda nchi yake, anapenda rafiki zake na watu.
Might have been arrested, beaten up, threatened. The moment I discovered my voice, that I could actually stand up for what I really believe in, I'm no longer afraid. Now I belong to a community of many people who stand up with me. I used to be called Softy, but I'm no longer Softy because I discovered who I really am, as in that's what I want to do. And there's such beauty
Kenyan Power!
in doing that. There's nothing as powerful as that, knowing that I'm meant to do this.
My name is Boniface Mwangi, and I come from an amazing, beautiful country called Kenya. And Kenya has a US connection because Kenya gave the US their president. Barack Obama's father is from Kenya, so you see, there's a connection right there. That's my mother, a very amazing, beautiful, awesome woman. In her younger days, she was like the hottest girl in the community. And she was a traveler. She traveled, she loved to do business. And she was a nomad. My mother got a bit mixed up in life, and she ended up getting 7 kids with 6 different people. And I grew up in a broken single home. I grew up all over the city. I grew up country in Nairobi, and my mother struggled to bring us up. But what we lacked in goods, what we lacked in property, was filled with my mother's love. My mother loved me so much. We were 7 of us, but my mother was. So that is me and my mom. I was a bit of a naughty boy. In 1998, I was expelled from school, from high school. And I was expelled because I complained about the injustice in school. I was a bit mischievous, but I complained about things and I was expelled. My mother could not afford to pay for me another school, so I ended up working with my mother. The bag she's carrying had books in it. My mother used to sell books. She was like a preacher. She was selling Bibles and Christian books and Christian materials, telling people, repent or you're going to perish, repent or you're going to hell. But what I saw in her was a lot of love for the community and for the people. She did not have any property, but there was a lot of love in her. And in 2000, my mother died. And when my mother died, it was a moment of truth for me. We used to live in a very tough neighborhood where my friends were in drugs, they were in crime, and some were in prison. I lost a lot of friends to police bullets. I lost friends to mob justice. I lost friends to prison. And now when my mother died, I realized that if I do not style up, if I do not change my ways, I'm going to end up like my friends, either dead or in jail or a hopeless drug addict. And the fear of my mother, when my mother died, I was afraid. I was afraid that if I go that way, I'm going to disappoint her. So her love for me when she died kept me going. And I made up my mind, I need to change a few things in my life. I made up my mind that I'm going to change my ways. And I decided selling books. Those are Bibles and other things. I was selling books in the streets. I said, what else can I do with my life? What can I do? And I went to Bible school. I thought, maybe I'm going to follow my mother's life. She was a preacher, so maybe go start preaching. And when I was in Bible school, something happened. I used to love taking pictures in my class. And one of my lecturers gave me a book about a photographer's life, Mohamed Amin, one of the most famous Kenyan photographer. And reading about this photographer's life, I was like, yes, I can take pictures, but I can take my photos in a very different way. I can take pictures that will have an impact in my community. I can take pictures that will change people's lives. So I finished Bible school, and I decided to join a journalism school. I did not have a high school diploma, so I went to a man called Roy Gashuhi, and I told this man that I want to join a school, but I don't have the qualification. And he told me, I'm going to give you a chance. You're going to sit for an exam like everybody else. And if you pass this exam, I'm going to give you a chance to join my school. I sat for the exam, and I passed, and I became a photographer. And the reason I'm telling you this story is about, life is about choices. When my mother died, I had a choice to make, I had a decision to make. And I decided to love myself. And loving myself meant that I was going to change my friends, because I realized that the friends that I had at that particular time, if I did not change my ways, I was going to end up prison or dead. Then I realized that I was a high school dropout. I did not have the qualification to join any school, or I could not join the school that I wanted to. But what did I do? How did I pass the exam? I decided to improve on myself. And something about changing the world and making an impact in this world is about you must start with first self-love. There are many things that people talk about. Oh, you need to have an epiphany. You need to have a lot of money. You need to have the best of education in life. I don't think so. For you to be able to change the world and to be able to do anything that you want to do, you must start by loving yourself. Because the problem we have, we compare ourselves with so many other people. I was in a broken home. I grew up in total poverty. My friends were in crime. And so my environment, every single day, my environment told me something totally different, that you can't make it, that you'll never amount to anything. But I made a decision that I'm going to love myself and I'm going to improve my life. And what I want to urge you today, for you to change the world, love is the answer. Because from a heart of love comes empathy. From a heart of love comes you taking a stand in your community. From a heart of love, you see the problem in society and say you're going to do something about it. My mother responds to the issues that she saw as prayers and the Bible and preaching. My response today is that I'm an activist. I speak out about those issues. And the moment you start speaking out and doing the things that I do, you get a lot of criticism from people. People criticize you. People say, you're useless. Why are you doing that? Why are you speaking out? However, if you start by loving yourself and you know why you're trying to do what you're doing, you're going to make a difference. There'll be a lot of self-doubt. That is one of the biggest things that actually destroys people, self-doubt. Am I tall enough? Am I qualified enough? Am I black or brown? Am I yellow? Who am I? But when you start with self-love, you spend time with yourself. You discover who you really are. You discover what is your potential. And along this journey of loving myself is that I've taken many, many pictures. But I want to give you a story about one photo that came from a place of love. And I still think, and when I look back, I say, I became a photographer and I've taken so many pictures. But this one particular picture defines my entire career. That because I found myself and I'm doing what I love, I was able to make a difference. I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and she told me that she had a friend who had just had a baby, and the baby had a heart problem. That's baby Samara. So I got a phone call about a baby, and I went to see this baby. I was working as a newspaper photographer, and her name is Samara. And I met Samara's mother. She was crying. She had given up. The baby was 3 months old. She was born without holes in her heart. She didn't have a heart valve. So she had a heart problem. She had a heart condition. And there was no doctor in Kenya who could actually solve her problem or even do the operation. And when I went to see the baby, I took this photo and I went back to my photo editor and I begged the editor to print this picture. I live in a country where medical health is an issue. So if you do a medical appeal today, you'll be forced to do a medical appeal every single day. But I begged my editor and said, please publish this photo. And the photo was published. And when the photo was published, the response was overwhelming. People gave money. People gave air tickets. But there's a doctor in the US, Dr. Hani, who saw the picture and said, I'm going to fly from America and come all the way to Kenya and do the operation. And he came all the way, and he did the operation. And 8 years later, That's baby Samara. And the photo made a difference. And my point is that once you have loved yourself and you've started that journey to making a difference, you can never do it alone. You need other people. The journey towards change, the journey towards making an impact in your community needs other people. You need to work with other people. For baby Samara to be who she is today, there's a photo editor involved, there's a doctor involved. And so the question is, who are you working with in what you're trying to do? Who are your friends? Where's your life going to? I think a lot about death because you're all going to die. I think about the day I'm going to die and I'm being lowered to the grave. What will people say about you? What will you remember you for? The clicks that you kept, that you had a fast car, that you had an iPhone, that you're the biggest cheerleader in your school. What are we going to remember you for? You know, when you're young, you think you're immortal, that I'm going to live forever, that your life is going to be there forever, that you know it all. But that's not true. And so when I look at you, you're young, and you won the lottery to be at Occidental. You're lucky, you're fortunate. There are many people who will never get this chance. And because you have that chance, you have a bigger responsibility than anyone else, that you must make a difference, that you must live for something larger than yourself, something bigger than yourself, that you must ask yourself, where did I come from? And where am I going to? What can I do in my community? What role are you playing to make the world a better place? You've been blessed with an amazing world, and you have a responsibility to live it better than we found it. Some of you, the majority of you actually, don't have kids. But one day, you're going to become parents. And the question is, what kind of a future are you going to bestow your kids? When you're old, what are you going to tell your kids that you did when you're young? Because when you're young, it's a time to take risks. When you're young, it's time to make those mistakes. When you're young, it's the time to join the march for Black Lives Matter, or fighting for minority rights, or fighting for what you really care about. So ask yourself, if there's one word to describe your life today, what is that word? And then let's fast forward. The day we bury you, because all of us will surely die, what are you going to say about you? What are you going to say about your life? So go home, love yourself, look at your life, and say, what am I living for? What am I in school for? What am I going to do with my life? Why am I in this school? Why did you choose what you're learning in this school? Do you guys know what you're learning? Why you're learning what you're learning in school? Do you know why you're here? I think you need to understand that, because there are two important days in your life. The day you're born and the day you discover why you were born. So go forth to discover why you're born. Thank you.